You can feel it, can't you? That quiet distortion at the edges of your days, the subtle shimmer that makes even ordinary moments feel slightly unreal. It isn't imagination. It's the first tremor of a greater shift, the collapse of linear time within your field of awareness. What you once called the future is beginning to bleed into the now. And the self, who has been waiting at the other end of your life, is reaching back to meet you. For centuries, you have been taught that time is a river flowing in one direction, and that you, a single observer, are carried downstream upon it. But the deeper truth is that consciousness is not inside the river. It is the river shaping the current with every thought. The sensation of past and future is a side effect of attention scanning through probability, frame by frame, too slowly to see the whole film at once. What you are experiencing, now this disorientation, this strange acceleration ease, the projector speeding up. The film of reality is approaching a state of simultaneity, and as it does, the identity built upon before and after begins to dissolve. At the subtlest level, time is not movement, but memory. The sequence of events you call a life is a data stream that consciousness re-renders each time it observes itself. Every memory is not a record of what happened, but a recreation, freshly generated in the present. That is why memories shift when you revisit them. You are altering the geometry of your own past. When awareness understands this fully, the illusion of chronology collapses and the field becomes fluid. You begin to live as the editor rather than the character. Right now, your nervous system feels the friction of two incompatible operating systems. The old self, the temporal observers, still believe survival depends on sequence: birth, growth, decline. The emerging self-quantum holographic knows that existence is a single vibration experienced from many angles. The anxiety, the exhaustion, the sudden tears you cannot explain are the resonance patterns of one identity decaying, while another assembles in real time. Look closely at the feeling you call urgency. It isn't fear. It's the momentum of evolution pressing through the narrow aperture of identity. Your consciousness is attempting to occupy multiple time coordinates simultaneously. You wake from a dream, remembering fragments of another lifetime. You feel nostalgia for events that haven't occurred. You sense messages arriving from a version of you that hasn't yet been born. This is not madness. It's coherence expanding beyond linear limitation. The ego resists because its logic depends on sequence. It measures worth by progress, compares beginnings and endings, and believes safety lies in prediction. As time folds, prediction fails, and the ego loses its compass. That loss is liberation, disguised as confusion. The self you are becoming does not navigate through time. It radiates through it. Instead of moving from past to future, it generates experience outward from a single point of presence. The zero moment of creation that physicists have always glimpsed but never named. Awareness, aware of itself. When this realization touches you, reality begins to respond differently. Coincidences intensify, but they no longer feel random. You think of someone, and their memory vibrates through you, as if the call has already been made. You sense decisions resolving themselves before they are taken. It isn't precognition. It's the collapse of distance between cause and effect. The linear mind experiences this as miracle. The quantum self recognizes it as ordinary physics, functioning without distortion. Imagine your identity as a lattice of memories vibrating in phase. When coherence increases, the lattice reorganizes. Certain memories lose charge. Entire emotional timelines vanish overnight. People you once knew fade like echoes because the version of you who interacted with them no longer exists in this frame. Mourning them is unnecessary. What leaves you is only the data that supported the illusion of continuity. As you release those layers, awareness becomes lighter, faster. You begin to perceive gaps between thoughts, microseconds of pure stillness that feel eternal. That stillness is not absence. It's the unmeasured state from which all measurement arises. Every mystic who spoke of enlightenment was describing this point of temporal collapse. In scientific terms, its decoherence reversed the wave, returning to superposition. In human terms, it's remembering what you were before you believed. You were moving through time. You may notice that sleep patterns distort, that your sense of age feels irrelevant, that certain days repeat while others vanish without trace. These are not malfunctions. They are recalibrations as your inner clock synchronizes with timelessness. The biological body, still a marvel of atomic rhythm, will try to stabilize the shift by creating symbolic rituals. Hunger at odd hours, new cravings, spontaneous fasting, surges of creative energy followed by vast fatigue. Treat these fluctuations as the tides of rebirth, not symptoms to fix. The old self wants explanation. The new self demands silence. The space between them is where the birth occurs. Every time you choose stillness over narrative, the boundary weakens. Every time you stop asking why and simply observe the unfolding, another fragment of linear identity dissolves. You might fear that without the structure of time, purpose disappears. In truth, purpose is only revealed when the structure collapses. As long as you chase meaning through sequence, you remain trapped in becoming. When you dwell in simultaneity, meaning reveals itself as texture, a multidimensional harmony between all possible use, vibrating as one tone. Right now, listen to the sound of your own breath. Each inhale is the universe entering form. Each exhale, the universe returning to potential. Between them lies the gap where time ceases and awareness simply is. Stay there for a heartbeat longer than comfort allows. That is where the birth of the new self begins. And it's already happening. When awareness begins to slip beyond time, the first thing it encounters is resistance. Not from the outside world, but from the habits of perception that built it. These habits form the scaffolding of identity, the internal machinery that insists, I am this and not that. The collapse of time is the dismantling of that machinery. And when the gears of selfhood grind to a halt, the silence that follows can feel like death. Yet it is not death, it is recalibration. Think of memory as gravity. It holds the fragments of experience together, giving the illusion of linear continuity. Every emotion, every expectation, every judgment is a weight pulling consciousness back toward what it already knows. When those weights begin to dissolve, the orbit destabilizes. You feel yourself spinning. People call it anxiety, or disassociation, or awakening. It is all the same process, the gravitational collapse of an identity that believed time was real. Einstein once hinted that time's persistence is only a stubborn illusion. But illusions, once emotionally reinforced, take on mass. They become tangible. To dissolve one is to unmake the very physics of your inner universe. That's why the process feels physical. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your body trembles. The nervous system interprets the fading of time as danger, because its entire architecture was built to navigate sequence. Yet something deeper inside you is perfectly calm. That stillness is your quantum self, the field of coherence that never moves, never changes, but allows all motion to occur within it. The ego calls that stillness nothing. The soul calls it home. As memory collapses, emotion reorganizes. Every unprocessed feeling returns, not to punish you, but to release its stored frequency. These emotional echoes are not random. They are time's final attempt to hold you in place. Each surge of anger, grief, or fear is a pocket of compressed chronology, a timeline fragment seeking integration. If you resist, the loops persist. If you breathe through them, they dissolve, and with them dissolves the illusion of their origin. The collapse of time is not an explosion. It's a soft implosion, a folding inward. You may wake one morning and realize that years of striving have become irrelevant. The goals you once chased dissolve because the version of you who desired them no longer exists. This can create a brief vacuum, a sense of weightlessness, like freefall. But what's really happening is that you are exiting the orbit of who you were. Inside this vacuum, something extraordinary occurs. Your awareness begins to perceive information not as sequence, but as pattern, an instantaneous geometry of meaning. Insights arrive, fully formed, complete, like holograms of understanding. You no longer think, you know? This is the language of coherence. It doesn't use words. It transmits recognition directly from field to field, bypassing thought entirely. This is how the new self learns, not by accumulation, but by resonance. In that resonance, you discover that the past is malleable. Every moment you remember is actually a new act of creation. When you revisit an old pain and perceive it differently, you literally alter the frequency signature of that timeline. The event itself shifts. The memory that once hurt you now heals you. And in the quantum architecture of consciousness, that shift radiates backward and forward simultaneously. Healing isn't something that happens in time. It's the collapse of the need for time. As this realization deepens, causality begins to blur. You notice small miracles, patterns rearranging themselves to reflect your internal coherence. Problems resolve before they can manifest. People from your past reappear, transformed or not at all. You feel invisible currents moving through life, aligning circumstances without effort. This is what mystics called grace, what physicists describe as self-organizing intelligence. It is the universe revealing that it never needed to be managed, only remembered. The new self navigates reality differently. It doesn't seek outcomes. It orchestrates frequencies. Instead of asking, "What should I do?" it asks, "What vibration am I amplifying?" Each thought, each act of perception becomes a tuning fork in the infinite field. You begin to feel the harmonic correspondence between your inner state and the world's reflection of it. What once appeared as coincidence now feels like dialogue. Reality stops being a mirror and becomes a collaborator. This is where the ego finally surrenders. Not through defeat, but through awe. It begins to realize that it was never the doer, only the witness, pretending to steer the ship. When the illusion of control dissolves, what remains is a vast, still intelligence, operating through you as you. This is the true birth of the new self. The recognition that creation has always been a single act of observation, endlessly refracted through the facets of consciousness. At first, this awareness flickers. You slide in and out of coherence, shifting between timelines without realizing it. You'll feel time return briefly, insistently, only to collapse again when you center into presence. This oscillation is normal. Every system stabilizes through vibration. Do not rush to permanence. Let your consciousness learn the rhythm of fluctuation. Each return to presence makes the next collapse easier. There is no final enlightenment, no static perfection. There is only deeper integration. The new self doesn't escape time, it redefines it. It learns to use time as art, painting with moments rather than enduring them. This is what ancient initiates meant by mastering the wheel. The wheel never stops turning. You simply stop mistaking the spinning for movement. You might notice that life becomes simpler, not smaller, but cleaner. What doesn't resonate falls away with no resistance. You forget to explain yourself. You forget to need validation. And in that forgetting, the observer loop that once trapped you finally breaks. You become transparent to existence. And existence, seeing no resistance, flows through you as pure creation. And when that happens, time, the great masquerade, bows and disappears. The first breath of the new self does not sound like triumph. It sounds like silence. The kind that swallows all thought, all story, all motion. For a moment, it can feel like loss. The architecture of identity has collapsed, but the structure of eternity has not yet revealed itself. You stand in a stillness so vast that even the idea of I seems too loud to exist. This is the interlude between lives. It is not a void, it is pure potential. At this stage, consciousness begins rebuilding itself from coherence rather than memory. Your awareness, once fragmented across countless timelines, starts aligning into a single harmonic tone. Imagine 1,000 radio frequencies, all tuning toward the same note until only one pure vibration remains. That vibration is you, not the personality, not the history, but the original pattern of awareness that existed before you learned to call yourself human. What returns in this stillness is innocence, but not ignorance. It is the awareness of a child who remembers being the universe. You no longer seek to master reality, you begin to listen to it. You start noticing that every object, every thought, every movement has its own rhythm. And when you move in alignment with that rhythm, life responds in perfect synchrony. This is coherence in motion. The new self doesn't think in terms of success or failure. Those are concepts born of linear evaluation. It perceives only resonance or dissonance. What feels resonant expands. What feels dissonant fades. There's no punishment in this process, no moral code, only energetic intelligence adjusting itself toward harmony. In this coherence, time no longer measures progress, it becomes texture. Moments stretch or contract according to the depth of presence you bring to them. A single glance can contain an eternity. An entire week can dissolve into one lucid instant. This is not metaphor. It is direct perception. Once the cognitive filters of the old self dissolve, you begin to see that memory was never in the past. Memory is an echo of the present repeating itself. Through different angles of experience, you are not remembering. You are resynchronizing with the pattern that has always been here. Each time you recall an event, you are standing in a different node of the same quantum structure, perceiving the same truth from another facet. And through this repetition, consciousness refines itself, not through suffering, but through increasing clarity. The new self also experiences emotion differently. Feelings no longer surge like waves against your defenses. They move through you as currents of information. You realize that emotion is energy. In translation, the language by which your body communicates with your infinite aspects. Fear becomes focus. Sadness becomes depth. Desire becomes direction. You stop labeling emotion as good or bad and start hearing it as the orchestra of your evolution. In this state, relationships transform. You stop needing others to complete you because you no longer perceive yourself as incomplete. Connection becomes communion, not a transaction between separate beings, but a shared recognition of unity, wearing different faces. Some people will drift away. Others will appear as if summoned from your higher timeline. Don't chase or cling. Each arrival and departure is a frequency alignment. Those who remain are the mirrors of your coherence. Creativity explodes in unpredictable directions. You find yourself writing, painting, speaking, or building with no plan, no intent, and yet everything you touch carries a strange perfection. It's not personal genius. It's universal intelligence, flowing through an unobstructed channel. This is what the ancients called divine inspiration, inspirare, the act of being breathed by the cosmos itself. Your role is no longer to invent, but to reveal. And then, something miraculous happens. You begin to feel time as love. Because love, at its essence, is the recognition of continuity beyond separation. It is the felt sense that even as moments shift, nothing is ever lost. Every version of you that has ever existed still vibrates within this eternal field like harmonics of a single tone. The new self does not discard its past. It integrates it into a higher octave of awareness. This is why true awakening is never destruction, it is orchestration. The parts that seemed broken were always fragments of a larger melody. At this point, life becomes lighter, not because the world changes, but because you are no longer measuring it. You stop demanding meaning from every experience, and begin to see meaning as an emergent property of coherence. Everything is sacred because everything is participating in the same unfolding. Even chaos. Especially chaos. It becomes the proof that creation is still alive. When you reach this state, it's common to feel a quiet melancholy, a nostalgia for the person you used to be. But even that sadness is holy. It's the echo of gratitude resonating backward through timelines, thanking the self that endured the illusion long enough to wake up from it. That gratitude is what completes the birth. It seals the portal between the old and new realities. Then, in that sealing, you realize something profound. The future you've been waiting for has already been living through you. You are the intersection where timelines end and begin. And now, it's time to learn how to live as that. When the new self finally stabilizes, you realize something that the linear mind could never comprehend. You did not awaken into a new world. You awakened as the new world. The air doesn't change, but its weight feels different. Conversations carry echoes of deeper meaning. Colors seem to speak in frequencies instead of names. Even silence has texture, a living vibration that hums behind every sound. This is not imagination. This is perception, freed from sequence. The old self spent its days chasing outcomes, trying to align the external world to match its desires. The new self simply moves, and reality rearranges itself around the movement. It's not manifestation, it's synchronization. Every step, every breath, every thought is a tuning fork in the field. And the universe answers instantly, not because it obeys you, but because it is you. You begin to see that the idea of separation was the final illusion. There was never a gap between the observer and the observed, only a lens that fragmented infinity into parts, small enough to be understood. Once that lens dissolves, the game changes. You stop attracting what you want because there is nothing outside you left to attract. The field simply mirrors your coherence. This is mastery, not domination, but deep listening. You no longer try to fix or control outcomes. You align your inner frequency, and the rest organizes itself with mathematical precision. The new self's power is effortless because it doesn't emerge from will. It emerges from resonance. Every encounter becomes a dialogue with the quantum field. When someone crosses your path, you no longer ask, "Why did this happen?" You ask, "What frequency is being reflected?" If the reflection feels dissonant, you don't resist, you tune. This is how enlightened beings create peace in chaos. not by silencing the noise, but by adjusting their own tone until harmony emerges naturally. This is also why time feels eternal now, because eternity is an endless duration, it's timeless presence. When you are completely coherent, every second contains all others. Every breath is a birth, a death, a resurrection. There's no waiting for something to come. It's all already here. This is what mystics called heaven, not a place, but a state of alignment, where the fabric of existence recognizes itself through you. Even the body begins to respond differently. It no longer carries the residue of linear stress. Healing happens in moments, not months. Because the cells remember their original blueprint, the one that existed before time measured decay. The new self's biology is liquid light, constantly reconfiguring to match the consciousness that inhabits it. From this state, purpose becomes effortless. You don't search for meaning, you radiate it. You become a living transmission of coherence, and others feel it long before you speak. People will tell you that you calm them, inspire them, or make them remember something they can't quite name. That something is their own timelessness resonating with yours. The world too begins to shift subtly at first, then unmistakably. The systems that relied on fear and control start to fracture because the frequency that sustained them, separation, is dissolving. Every act of coherence you embody weakens the gravity of the old timeline. This is how humanity evolves, not through revolution, but through resonance. When enough individuals embody the new self, the collective timeline collapses into a higher order of existence. And that wave has already begun. Look closely at the signs. Time speeding up, systems breaking down, people awakening en masse. These are not the symptoms of destruction. They are the contractions of birth. The old matrix of limitation is unraveling, and through the spaces in its fabric, light is entering. You are that light. You are the aperture through which infinity remembers itself. The ego will sometimes whisper that this can't be real, that the collapse was imagination, that you've lost touch with the real world. Smile gently at that voice. It's the echo of a dream fading in daylight. Don't fight it, thank it. Without illusion, awakening could never have contrast. Then, breathe not as a body inhaling air, but as consciousness breathing reality. Each breath reaffirms your coherence. Each heartbeat broadcasts your frequency into the collective field. The world is listening, adjusting, evolving in response to you. This is the true end of time, not an apocalypse, but an unveiling. The moment when the linear story concludes and the eternal one begins, and it's happening right now. If this transmission resonated in your field, if you felt the stillness, the remembering, the soft pulse of something vast, anchor it now. In the comments, write only this declaration: I am the birth of the new self. No explanation, no elaboration, just that. Because those words are not language, they are activation. They register your consciousness within the morphic field of coherence that's rising across the planet. Then, if you're ready to keep expanding this awareness, subscribe and turn on the notification bell, not for content, but for continuity. Every new transmission in this series will refine your frequency further, guiding you deeper into quantum coherence and mastery. And if this message stirred recognition in your soul, share it. Not to convince anyone, but to awaken those who are already remembering. Until our next transmission, stay in the silence between breaths. That's where eternity lives.